Welcome to my Wellness Spring Show. If you're looking for inspiration, this chat with Fiona Caffin, an Australian pole dancer and entrepreneur who achieved a Guinness World Record at the age of 57 on a Chilean volcano, will have you jumping for glee. She blends movement, mindset and strategy to inspire others to step into their power and transform their lives. So tune in for motivation. Welcome, Fiona, to Wellness Spring. It's so lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you, Beverley. Great to be here.
Yeah, for the listeners, I've known Fiona for a few years now, but at a very far distance. We both have done some William White Cloud Secrets to Natural Success training. And the other week when I approached Fiona, because she became a world record holder in the Guinness Book of Records for high altitude pole dancing. So I was keen to interview her, and she told me she was going to Robert Fritz's workshop. And at that time she said, "Oh, I may be a different person when I come back. So I'm keen to know, are you a different person, and how was the workshop?"
Oh, the workshops were amazing. He was actually running 3 workshops back to back. I did the first 2, and I figured after that my brain would probably be just, full or exploded or all of the above. And so the first one was the path of least resistance. And I don't even know where to start, but I think the major takeaway for me is I've spent a large part of my life searching for my passion, my purpose in life. I had a father who knew from a very, very young age he wanted to be a physicist. He went out, he became a physicist, and he's been very happy. So the thing I really took away from Robert, from the path of least resistance, was you don't have to want anything. It's actually okay to not want anything. And that just blows out all that kind of, finding your deep purpose and searching for something, because essentially that's outside of yourself. So yeah, that's a big difference to me. I'm learning that it's okay to wake up in the morning and not have some driving want that I have to be, succeeding at.
Yeah, I think that most people would struggle with that one, because they always are looking, what can I do? What can I achieve? What can I do next? And for you, oh my goodness, I don't know where to start. But at 57, Fiona, most people are saying, slow down, you're coming up to retirement and so forth. But you decided that you wanted to go and climb a volcano in the freezing cold, freezing winds in Chile to pole dance at the world record altitude. What possessed you to say yes to that idea?
It's the funniest story, really. I started pole dancing about 7 years ago now, when I turned 51, because I just needed to get fit. I needed to get some strength. There's a lot of information out there today about, being strong is the best thing for your longevity, your health span. And so I was trying a bunch of things. I found pole dancing and fell in love with it. And so fast forward a few years, and I discovered after COVID that there were things called pole competitions. So I started competing in my own age category, 50 plus. And I don't know what possessed me to look up what world records there was for pole dancing, which I did one day. I will say, though, I'd written a bucket list quite a few years earlier, and hold a world record was just one of the things I put on the bucket list, because it's something I've dreamt of since I was a little kid, and, the black and gold Guinness World Record book at school and that kind of thing. So I put it on the bucket list, not having any idea how it would ever possibly happen, because a lot of us associate it with, feats of strength and endurance and, things, as you say, in your 50s are beyond you. But I looked it up and I saw this blank entry for the highest altitude pole dance, and I thought, yeah, that's something I could possibly do. Like, that's within the realms of possibilities. And I just started looking into it. I was heading off to Nepal later that year to climb a mountain. I thought, oh, just take a pole with me. That'll be easy. Fortunately, my coach said no. And I look back after that trip and went, yeah, that was one of the dumbest ideas I've ever had. 12 days of hiking through snow and everything else with a pole would have just, yeah, not happened. So I kind of got benched for a year or two. But I had a list, I had a spreadsheet of all the high places in the world. And every couple of months, I'd kind of pull it out and think, how could this possibly happen? It was just this crazy idea that just seemed to have a little life of its own. It wasn't a burning desire or anything like that you would kind of normally associate with a great deed or passion. And anyway, I qualified for the World Pole Championships in Buenos Aires and started looking around and thinking, what else will I do while I'm in South America? Because it's nice to, if you're going to go that far, you want to stay a little while and do some adventuring. And that's when I discovered the volcanoes in Chile. And I looked at the height of them, which was up in the, high 5,000 meters. And then I saw this thing that you could drive most of the way up them. You didn't have to trek up them. And of course, there was no snow. That was a huge attraction, no snow. So I just thought, that might work. And so it just kind of was just little step after that. I'd already purchased an ultra lightweight pole from Italy previously for the Nepal trip, which didn't happen. And so then it was just a case of finding a guide, and it's a tourist area in Chile. They take people up these volcanoes every day. They're, a one-day trek. They drive you up, you walk up to the summit and back down you come. And so I just got in touch with found one who was willing to carry the pole for me, booked it in, and it just unfolded from there. There is more to it than that, of course. I needed to acclimatise. Altitude is not something to be messed with. But that was just all just unfolded as part of the plan.
Wow, that's amazing. And when you were standing 6,000 meters, stripped of comfort and oxygen, who were you in that moment compared to the woman you were before the climb began?
Oh, honestly, I think at that moment there was so little brain function going on. It was simply me, the wind, the pole, praying that I didn't land on my head, that I didn't lose any fingers to frostbite, and just taking the steps that I'd planned and practiced in my mind over and over. As you prepare for anything, you visualize it and you do step through it. And I do quite a bit of my pole competition training that way because I can't physically train as much as many of the younger athletes. So I do walk through my routines a lot and visualize my routines a lot. And I'd done that more so for this particular event, for the world record attempt, because I was focusing most of my physical training on the World Championships, which was the week before. So I think it was just all of that repetition just kind of kicked in, and I was really semi on autopilot, just pushed through, adjusted as the conditions dictated. I couldn't do what I'd planned to do. It was just, I hadn't expected it to be so bitterly cold and so dry. The humidity really, really was a shock. Drying out my hands, giving me zero grip on the pole. So it was really just responding to the situation and completing, the picture in my mind of dancing for 2-3 minutes and then just packing up and vamoosing out of there to somewhere warmer.
And so talk us through the mental and physical and emotional training. Like, how much training did you have to do before that? And who or what inspired you to do this?
So the physical, do any specific physical training for the world record. I was training pretty hard for the world championships, doing my pole, doing, cross training, flexibility training, all those kinds of things. When I got to Chile after the World Championships, what I did do was an 8-day acclimatization program. I stayed in San Pedro, which is at 2,400 meters, and so each day I had a program, like an itinerary to go somewhere at a higher altitude, spend some time there, and then come back down to San Pedro and sleep. It's a classic walk high, sleep low approach to altitude acclimatization, and I worked it in with like a tourist plan as well. So I went to see all the attractions, the geysers and the flamingos, and a couple of times I took the pole with me and just, set it up on the side of the road and just did a few spins to have a feel of, what it was like to pole at, 3,500 meters. And so that was probably the most physical element of preparing specifically for that event.
You mentioned
mentally
now about that. Oh, carry on. Sorry.
I was going to say mentally, I don't think I did really much actual preparation other than the visualization. I truly believed it wasn't going to be that cold. That was a bit of an oversight and a bit of a shock, because I'm not a cold lover at all. I definitely like the warmth. It just kind of tucked into my training plan for the World Champs, really, to be honest.
Fair enough. And you mentioned altitude sickness or altitude issues. I remember when I went to South America and we did the Inca Trails, we went to all the usual places, and we went with a group called Trail Finders, and there was 20 of us in the group, and at the end there was only 3 of us. And then the day we got to the Inca Trails, I was blessed with diarrhea and vomiting. So I said to my girlfriend, and there was another Japanese girl with us, because everybody else had had the sickness and couldn't complete. I said, I'm not going. I can't come off the toilet, and she's a registered nurse, and she'd bought all these medications to block you up, or, laxatives and so forth. And she was like, just take one of these. Of course, nothing was touching us. And the 2 of them begged me to go. And honestly, I christened the entire Inca Trail for 4 days. And it was so embarrassing at first. But then people just all walking around you and they don't really care. So, and we got back to the hotel. We found this doctor over here just talking from the UK, and he gave me this broad spectrum antibiotics, and I was fixed in an instant. So that did you suffer with altitude? And also I know you work a lot with your intuition, so how much did your intuition and your gut feeling help you through that journey?
So let's talk about the altitude sickness first. No, I didn't have any altitude sickness issues. I was pretty confident that I wouldn't in Chile, because I'd been even higher in Nepal. In Nepal, we trekked to nearly 6,500 meters. And whilst I did get sick, I got the not barley belly because it was in Nepal, but I got the gastro in Nepal, and, had the same experience of vomiting, diarrhea, all that kind of stuff on the trail. That wasn't due to altitude. That was purely a gastro thing for me. I was very confident I'd be okay with the altitude in Chile, and I don't know, I was so fine in Chile. Actually, I was very, very healthy, very strong. I did take it gently. It wasn't like I was trekking every day or anything else. I'd, jump in my little car and drive places, and I might walk a couple of hours or something. But it's not the same as when you're trekking and sleeping in tents and that kind of thing. And I was eating very, very well in Chile, unlike Nepal, where you've got very limited food at the high altitudes. I was eating very, very well. That was something I I planned basically a lot because I know how important fueling my body is with the right things. It can be a bit sensitive. So that's the altitude sickness side. Yeah, I was really confident I'd be fine, which I was. I mean, it's not easy when there's not much oxygen in the air, but I didn't have any adverse effects, no headaches or anything else either to contend with, which, I'm grateful. That certainly made it less difficult than it would have been if I'd had to deal with those things as well. As far as intuition goes, I think I just knew it was going to happen. There was no, I'll call it gut resistance. Every step, I won't say every step fell into place just like that, because it didn't. It didn't. The first guides that I tried to organise the trek with ghosted me after a couple of conversations. And so then I had to go back to square one and find another guide. So, it didn't all just fall into place like that. Trying to get my luggage across to Chile, that was a bit of a drama, getting the extra weight and baggage on the plane. But at each step of the way, I do remember being just very calm about it. It was just like, this is just going to happen. I'm just going to keep taking the steps. Not quite inevitable, but because I certainly still had plenty of fears and things. But, yeah, there was no alarms from my intuition, that's for sure. I think with Nepal, I mean, yes, I had the idea to do it, but looking back, every step of the pre-planning was kind of like, this is nuts, this is crazy, what are you thinking? And of course it didn't happen. Whereas the Chile thing just seemed to be right. Now I need to book my baggage. Now I need to get a guide. Now I need accommodation. Now I need an acclimatization plan. And it was just like, chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk, So...
That's hilarious. And have you always been adventurous? And, what was your life growing up where you have that adventurous spirit?
Maybe. My parents certainly do. My parents are huge bushwalkers, mountaineers. They met each other in the mountaineering club at university. And you would think that, as a child, I would have had lots of experience with that. But the fact was, apparently, I was an absolutely terrible traveller as a child. So they stopped and we never went anywhere as a child. Whether that then fueled my desire for adventure, I don't know. I certainly loved to read as a kid, and I used to read all the famous five and those sorts of books. And, I mean, they're always going off and having adventures, right? So, no, my life hasn't been one of adventuring. Not until my 50s, really. And I'm probably making up for lost time.
Yeah. And what would you say to people who have got that attitude, it's ingrained in them? Oh, I can't do it, I'm too old. They probably look at you and see you as this super fit pole dancer and think, it's all right for you, you can do it, you're energetic. But what about poor me, overweight or no energy and so forth? What tips would you give them?
First, I'd say you should have seen me in my 40s. Overweight, bad knees, couldn't go up and down stairs without having to think about it. My body and everything is completely different now in my 50s to back then. But, I still suffer. I'll say suffer's the wrong word, but I still struggle a lot with fatigue, tiredness, on a very regular basis, injury. As we age, I'm what's called hypermobile, so I tend to get a lot of nerve kind of problems in my joints. I'm struggling at the moment with a shoulder injury and can't do a lot of pole at all right at the moment. So it's a combination of baby steps. That's one of my big kind of, I suppose, mantras is you just got to start somewhere. And if you'd told me how long it would take me to achieve certain things I've achieved in the last 5 years, I probably wouldn't have started. But you just got to start, because you can't start any earlier, right? Any little improvement is better than not improving, and it's a lot better than going backwards, which is the other alternative. I mean, just holding still is hard. Then if you don't do anything, you're going to go backwards. And I don't want to, do that. I want to be able to travel in my 60s. I want to be able to travel in my 70s. And it may not be as active as what I'm doing now. It probably won't be, but I don't want to be stuck at home either. So, yeah, I would just say to people, just start with tiny things. I mean, one of the triggers for me in my whole fitness journey was starting with one push-up on my knees every morning. And it took me 2 years to go from that one push-up on my knees to doing 12 full push-ups. 2 years of doing them almost every morning. And, I did one on my knees literally for a month. And then the second month I did 2 on my knees. And then I did 3. I may have skipped ahead a couple because it kind of got up to 5 or 6 or 8 pretty quickly. But it still took me 2 years to be able to do 12 full push-ups.
Wow.
You just don't know what you're capable of unless you start.
Exactly. People say the same to me because most people my age are retired, and my partner and I bought 146 hectares of land, and it's keeping us so fit going up and down, back and forth to, where we're planting our veggie garden and so forth. But it's getting started. And I know, it's so important as you grow older, every day, doesn't matter what age you are, to do some form of exercise, and just so inspiring. It's great to hear that you were doing it from your knees. So there's no excuse, dear listeners. You can do it if you're motivated. And I know coaches over the years have said it's really good, to do them against the wall as well. If you can't get down, it's all about building up your calcium in your bones and your muscle strength. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
And
I mean, what does retirement mean anyway? I mean, to me, retirement has always just meant doing what you choose to do. And for some people, that's still working, or it's, going and digging your veggie garden, like you said. So, this whole obsession with retirement, I think, is very misguided. It's really should be about doing what you want to do. And when it comes to exercise, you just need to find something you enjoy. I mean, that's how I started pole. I tried a whole bunch of different things because I knew I needed to find something I enjoyed. I never played sport as a kid. I stopped dancing when I was 14 because I hurt my knees badly. So I hadn't really done any sport for, 40 years. But I knew I needed to do something, and I just went and found something that I was really terrible at when I started. But I just loved it, and it just hooked me in. So people need to just go out and try things, go out and experiment, and find some sort of movement. There's so many now. There's so many types of choices, and if you can't get to physical classes, there's online classes. The internet has made it so accessible now. Yeah, there's really no excuse to just not get out. And if it's digging your veggie garden or Tai Chi or, swinging off a pole, whatever does it for you, do it. And then your interest will grow, and then you will start to do things that you don't want to do. Like I'll be honest, I don't really want to go to the gym when I go and lift weights. But I do it because it's a secondary choice to my goal of being a good pole dancer, which is another secondary choice to having good health, which I think everybody wants, And to circle right back in our conversation back to Robert Fritz, this is one of the things that, really took away from the workshop was this secondary choices and things that support your primary choice. And you may not want to do your secondary choice, but you want the primary choice. You want that good health. So you will go to the gym to build the strong bones. You might not want to go to the gym, but you want to be able to lift up your grandchildren. That takes muscles. So you go to the gym so you can pick up your grandchildren. So understanding your motivation and your actual wants, and then accepting what you have to do, is just part of that journey.
Lovely. And I totally agree with you. And I personally think just doing anything in nature, even if you just go for a walk in a park, and nature is a big part of our existence. And if you can't go to nature, bring some nature in, whether it's plants on your balcony, plants inside. And as you said, we're overwhelmed with choices on the internet to do things. And even it's
Mm,
just simple breathing exercises, it's a start, because each breath will
exactly.
change your mindset. And
Yeah.
talking about mindset, I've been blessed to know my corner explorer who did the crossing of the North and South Pole, and he did it in reverse, and it was horrendous. And every night he'd have to hand drill each nail to get life back into his feet, his nails, and on his hands and fingers. Um, but he said, once you make it to the end, you're so excited, but it doesn't take long for everything to drop and you go into a deep low. Did that happen to you?
I'll be really honest. I didn't really believe that I'd done it, that I'd achieved my world record until I got the certificate in the mail. Um, Up the actual volcano, because I'd had to change my plans so drastically, the routine that I had planned just wasn't safe because of the lack of grip and humidity and the wind, which was howling. I had to change my routine on the fly and just try and do sufficient tricks and things to be considered a suitable pole dance. Um, and I lost track of time because I was doing it to music, but when I very first started, I slipped very, very badly and had to restart. But I wasn't going to restart the music because it was just like, it's just too cold to go from here to over there to, it's just like, no, just keep going and we'll sort it all out later kind of thing. So I'd lost track of how long I'd been going and I wasn't 100% sure I'd gone for long enough because there was a time requirement of 2 minutes. As it turned out, it was 2 minutes 55. So there you go. But yeah, so then when I'd done that and we packed up and we got back to the car and we went back and then I was looking at the videos going, oh, this is terrible. This is awful. This is so ugly. Because I'd had this vision of this, elegant, beautiful, graceful pole dance routine, which it was not, which under the circumstances is not surprising. So I originally was very disappointed in my performance. And it wasn't really until, and so then there was a long delay between doing the attempt, which was the 3rd of November. I then had to gather documentation, certification. I had to get the altitude certified, all this, so many people, over 100 files that I submitted to Guinness. And I finally just submitted that on the 1st of January, so nearly 2 months later. And that whole time I was just like in that, headspace of, I'm not good enough, I'm a failure. I went right down that rabbit hole for a little while. Sent it all off, not expecting to hear from them for months because it had taken a very long time, taken over 4 months to have my application assessed before I did the attempt. But they got back to me within 2 weeks, which was such a shock that I had to read the email like about 5 times. And then I sent it to a friend to say, does this say what I think it says? Because I was expecting them to come back with questions and more detail and all that kind of thing, which they didn't. Obviously, I submitted it all correctly. And it was like, oh, okay, well, now I get a certificate. Okay, well, okay. But when the certificate turned up in the mail and I actually opened it and I saw it, and because I am a very visual person and I saw it in black and white, it's not black and white, it's blue and colours, but like physically set out that, I had done it, that's when I really kind of had that moment of, my God, I did it. Like, my little inner child kind of just jumped up and down a lot.
Yeah.
Is that
Oh
what you
my
meant?
goodness. And obviously you must have shifted internally mindset. If you can do that, what else can I do?
It's a little bit of a scary thought, actually, because yes, it's kind of like, I don't really have any excuses now, do I? So it does create, for me, it actually creates a little bit of performance pressure, and with that comes a little bit of performance anxiety. So So really accepting that I don't actually have to want to achieve anything else. I don't have to want to do anything else. That is actually okay, which is, for me, the big learning out of some of Robert's work and the courses has really helped with that. And digging into the process of achieving that. Again, drawing on Robert's teachings of you have that end result that you wanted, which for me was actually the Guinness World Record. It actually wasn't, doing a beautiful, elegant routine. It was actually the world record, which I achieved. And setting up from current reality in all the little steps. So utilizing that tension structure and seeing how it worked for that end result, that goal, and now bringing that into other things in my life is where it's really helping in terms of saying, well, okay, so I don't have to have this, huge desire, this huge passion. It can just be a crazy idea of, hey, let's do a world record. But then I can just take those steps and create that structural tension and then just take the steps. And listening to my intuition to a degree about, when it starts feeling very hard or it starts feeling uncomfortable in a bad way, or as opposed to just uncomfortable, difficult, to start to listen to that and just to check in with, what is it that I actually want in this situation? Is this the most direct path? Is this the easiest way to get what I want? The difference, the contrast between, trekking through snow for 12 days in Nepal versus leaving in the morning, driving up the volcano, an hour or so's walk to the top, pole dance, walk back down, drive home, and you're having afternoon tea back in your hotel again. The difference is stark.
Wow. And I guess your life has been so varied as well. Your career started as an engineer, and how has that systems thinking mindset influenced the way you approach pole dancing, business, and even your personal growth?
Well, of course, it's hard to really say because I don't know any different. I think the way I think. I am very process oriented and very systems wired, I suppose. So, I like my pole training to be structured. I approach my work projects with structure. I'm always thinking, how does everything fit into the bigger picture? It's, I don't just work in little tiny capsules. I've got very broad range of interests. And so if I'm doing pole, I am just in the present moment doing my pole dancing. But there's also a part of me that's thinking how that fits into my whole life. I'm not explaining this very well, am I? Whenever I'm looking at setting up something new or creating something new, I don't just look at the little tiny details. I don't get bogged all in the details. I'm also looking at the very big picture and how does that integrate with this over here and how will that work with that over there. And I think that's a strength that I've drawn from engineering where, I came from mechanical engineering, production facilities, manufacturing. You might just have the little machine that, I used to love watching the little machines that used to make the little bottles for your shampoo and things. You've just got that machine, but it's part of a much bigger structure. It's part of, you've got to have all the inputs coming into the machine to make the bottles, and how do they get to the warehouse and how are they stored and how are they delivered? And then, of course, you've got the bottles coming out the other end, and then they've got to go to the filling machines and they've got to have caps put on them. They've got to be packaged. And so I've kind of got that whole, I don't know, the mechanics of the world, if you like, in the back of my brain of how does this fit into the big world picture of everything? It's not just like, oh, we're going to make a bottle.
Well, that's interesting. My husband's a mechanical engineer, or started his career that way, and he says to me, don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution and I'll see if I can do it. and he gets frustrated with people when they come in, with the problems. So he's always
Mm.
thinking of the big picture as well. How important is the big picture?
Look, you need all people to do all things. For me, it's all important. It's what I love doing. Um, and people don't always think of engineers as being the most creative people, but we actually are. It's just really, really well hidden. To dream up the things and the solutions that a lot of engineers have to come up with. I mean, it's like you can't just be thinking inside the box all the time. The best engineers are the ones who, take things from other disciplines and other interests, and can bring it all together into a workable whole. And I've taken that kind of through a combination of the process structure and that bigger picture right through all the other kinds of careers that I've had in finance, mortgage broking, property investing. I've done so many different things. But yeah, it's really underpinned all of that the whole way through.
Well, tell us a bit about the Intuitive Wisdom Academy. How did that idea unfold, and what is it about?
Sure. So it started quite a few years ago. As you said, we met through doing William Whitecloud's programs, the Natural Success programs. And after his first program, Create Your Destiny, one of the exercises is to do a land of plenty, which is a visualization on, things that you'd like in your life. And I loved the people that I was meeting online, because this was like around the time of COVID. And so everything was online. And I was loving talking to these people and talking about the intuition. And it's like, oh, how am I going to keep in touch with these people? It was just so annoying. I'm not a big fan of, Facebook. It doesn't support communities very well, in my opinion. And so I had this vision of an online community just for intuitives. And again, it sat in the back burner for quite a long time before eventually I started working with another friend on the idea, and we created what was then called Meeting Point. And with my background in the last 10 years of doing website design and development, I actually coded the website up myself and created a community, with forums and things online. And it's just evolved over time, and then we've rebranded, obviously, to Intuitive Wisdom Academy, and I've joined forces with Beata Fuller, and she'd built the Creators Collective community on Facebook. So we're trying to, the goal with Intuitive Wisdom Academy is to basically bring all the tribes, the intuitive tribes, to create a common place where we can all chat and meet and learn and grow and bring intuition into our daily lives and make it, a way of living rather than something, I have to go and practice my intuition now. It's like, no, let's live an intuition-centered life. So now we've got it. It's now running on the Circle platform. I moved away from having to do all the tech support myself, and we hosted it on Circle about 18 months, 2 years ago now, which is a community-driven platform. And we have masterclasses, we have library of resources, we have chat forums, and we're just building it out as and when the community shows a preference for things. And yeah, everyone's invited to join. If you have any intuition training or an interest in living a more intuitively led life, you don't have to have come through William's work. As many of us have just been to do Robert Fritz's workshops, as you know. Other people might have been through some of Chris Duncan's work, and basically all flavors of intuition are welcome. It's not a place for a one philosophy. I am not a coach. I'm not a teacher. I'm just merely, the facilitator of the space.
And because you've mentioned intuition a few times, what is your definition of intuition?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think for me, intuition is really listening to that little voice inside of you. And whether it's speaking from the subconscious and it's just process things that you already know and put it forward to you in a new format, or it's actually drawing on a higher power, connection to soul. I don't feel I need to weigh in on that conversation. I just listen to it, and I've had experiences in both realms, to be candid. And it's just learning to hear that voice, which can get so drowned out in all the busyness, emotional override of everyday living and the demands that, we allow society to put on us today. More so even now with, we're so connected constantly, when I was a kid, we had the phone with the cord on the wall, and there wasn't really any other kind of external input. I didn't grow up with a TV. Whereas today, if your phone's out of reach for more than a couple of minutes, you kind of get antsy. So, yeah, for me, that's what intuition is about, learning to hear that little quiet voice inside of you that's giving you a nudge here or an idea there, and then following through. And that's not always the easy bit either.
Yeah, it's many people can start, but they can't follow through. Why do you think that is?
Oh, look, my past is littered with, millions of unfinished projects and ideas and things that I thought were a good idea. I think there's lots of reasons. I know for me, I suffer from the BSOD, the bright, shiny object syndrome, if, a new toy comes along, it's like, oh, that's much more exciting. But then I look at other things like doing my world record that, there was tough bits in that, but you just kept going. And what I've asked myself, what is the difference? I think one of the big differences is when it truly is something you just want. You don't have to explain or justify. You just want it. Yeah, because I think it's very easy to get started, but then it's like, when it does start getting difficult or challenges starting to appear, for lots of different reasons, we can, if a new object comes along right at that point, it's really easy to go, oh, I'll just run over here and do this, versus really, really sticking to it and having, a bit of discipline. But checking in with your higher wants is probably the main, that's what keeps me going to the gym when I wake up in the morning. It's like, oh, it's a heavy day today. It's like, oh no. But then it's like, well, I just got to do it. It's like, it's not even a decision that I have to make, because I've made that decision ages ago. This is now just execution. And I think that's probably one of the key differences, is that when you've made the decision, and you're no longer in decision-making mode, you're in execution mode. And it's like, so you hit a difficulty, there's no decision to be made, you're just executing. It's like, well, I just deal with this. I have to find a way around it, over it, through it, whatever. Another way to do what I want to do. It's when you're in that constant, do I want to do this? Don't I want to do this? Maybe there's something better. When you're in that mode with a project, you're not going to finish.
Fair enough. And as this is a health and well-being show, what is your wellness go-to?
Sleep. Yeah. No, I love my sleep.
So
I've always been a big sleeper. The early last year, 20, I think it was beginning of last year. I lose track. The year's starting to blur at this age. I was having a lot of struggles physically, health-wise, fitness-wise, and I sat down with my personal trainer, and the very first thing he said was, how's your sleep? And I was like, well, I'm a perimenopausal woman. It sucks. And it's like, well, that's the first thing. That's the first thing you've got to get right before we even look at nutrition, before we look at your actual training program. Let's get some sleep, protocols around. Let's get that improved. And I do think that's like the number one thing. If you haven't got good recovery, which sleep is a major part of, then the rest is you're not going to have the same impact. So get your sleep sorted, and then you can work through the other things like nutrition and weight-bearing exercise and, mental activity and all the connection, all the other things that are important to a long health span.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter whether you're an athlete or not. Sleep and nutrition are of ultimate importance, and having that balance with work, rest, and play. So, if there was one thing you could do or facilitate in doing to change the world to be a better place, what would it be?
Oh, wow. I think kindness, to really increase the amount of kindness in the world that people show to each other. And that encompasses for me, tolerance of all the things that make us different, which is what makes us interesting, and being kind to, just being more kindness and tolerant in the world.
That's beautiful. And I'm with you on that, absolutely. And is there anything you'd particularly like to share before we wind up?
Oh, just to encourage people to, have a go, be adventurous, run some experiments. Don't take this so seriously because, no one's getting out of this alive. Treat life as an experiment. Go and have some experiments. Experiment with push-ups, experiment with pole dancing, experiment with, windsurfing, something. And find what you love. Find what you enjoy doing and then go do that.
That's great. There is a saying, love what you do and do what you love. So I think you've just summed that up. So thank you so much, Fiona, for giving up your precious time, and congratulations again on your world record. You're such an inspiration, especially when you said you didn't like the video of yourself, but you won the record, so that's all that matters. So I hate doing videos of myself. I'd rather speak on stage or do live talks, but when holding a camera in front of me is very daunting. So now you've inspired me to not care what I look like. So thank you, thank you. And for the listeners, I'll be sharing all Fiona's social media and websites with the notes, and you can reach out to her if you want a daily dose of inspiration. So thank you.
Thank you, Beverley. It's been a pleasure.